Go on with Part 9, Subpart G, FDA Final Rule. Next one is 29088. Substantial reports must submit an environmental assessment. Now, the environmental assessment includes this: impacts that may be both beneficial and adverse. A significant effect may exist even if the federal agency believes that on balance the effect will be beneficial. The degree to which the proposed action affects public health or safety. Unique characteristics of the geographic area. The degree to which the effects on the quality of the human environment are likely to be highly controversial. The degree to which the possible effects on the quality of the human environment are highly uncertain or involve unique or unknown risks. The degree to which the action may establish a precedent for future actions with significant effects or represents a decision in principle about a future consideration. Whether the action is related to other actions with individually insignificant but cumulative significant impacts. Significance exists if it is reasonable to anticipate a cumulatively, some words, forget it. Significant impact on the environment. Significance cannot be avoided by terming an action temporary or breaking it down into small component parts. Whether the action threatens a violation of federal, state, or local law or requirements imposed for the protection of the environment. And that is why it states only one manufacturer importer will be able to successfully complete this particular part of the substantial equivalence report regarding environmental assessment. Because this stuff that they're talking about is really crazy. It's crazy is what it is. It's impossible to do. Only one can complete it. And probably that one company can't even complete it. 29090. Now this is before, like if you're doing a substantial equivalence for products, like you're going to say, well, this looks like a product. Of course it doesn't. But let's say this looks like a product before February 15, 2007. I don't have any of those kinds of products that are before February 15, 2007, so I'm going to use this. And it has a little light on the end and goes, you know, that's what it looks like. It looks like something like this, right? Well, in order to prove, if you're doing this substantial equivalence submission, and you're going to say, well, your product after February 15, 2007 is similar to a product before February 15, 2007, the only way to prove that is by dated copies of advertisements, dated catalog pages, dated promotional material, and dated bills of lading. What is exactly? Man, I should know that. Duh. And I don't. I guess that's sales is what that, not the greatest business. So the action or process of loading a ship or other vessel with cargo. Definitely off by that. By a long shot there, a large margin. So if you're, you have maybe receipts that you actually loaded your product or products onto a ship or a vessel with cargo. So in order to prove that your product looks like a product that was there on the market before February 15, 2007, or products that are on the market before February 15th, 2007, those products before, all they have to do is submit this substantial equivalence report and show that these particular things that I stated, dated copies of advertisements, dated catalog pages, dated promotional material, dated bills of lading, that if you had that information and all those receipts are dated before February 15, 2007, then those particular products can remain on the market with no problem. Anyway, 29090 ends that are before February 15, 2007 per product will only take you 5 hours to do. So if you have a product that looks like this, or one of the e-cigarettes that were on the market before February 15th, 2007, it'll only take you 5 hours to complete each product. FDA does not anticipate that many manufacturers will make such submissions, but this option is available. Well, isn't that nice of the FDA? Because they know that in the vaping industry or the vaping market, hardly any of those products are still being vaped by the general population as far as the consumers are concerned in the vaping community. They know that. His whole thing is a con, I'm telling you, one big con. But anyway, 29091, PMTA application, pre-market tobacco application. Environmental assessment, take you 213 hours, and for a total of 1,713 hours just for the environmental assessment, 5,000 hours for early applications that involve complex products and for which the company has no experience conducting studies or preparing analysis of public health impacts, or for which reliance on master files is not possible. So if there's no master files, especially in the early part of that PMTA process, because there won't be many submissions or applications early on, like September of 2016, there's not going to be many submissions to the FDA. So therefore, in the master file that I actually speak about in Part 6, FDA electronic submissions, and Part 8, FDA draft guidances, that they'll have nothing to compare it to in the master file. So that will probably not, that, like I say, is not possible. It's probably not going to, you're not going to be able to rely on that master file. So because it's such early applications that involve complex products and for which the company has no experience conducting studies or preparing analysis of public health impacts, what I just read about with the environmental assessment, let alone all the other things you have to submit to the FDA. If they do submit it early on, if a company submits application to the FDA, let's say September 2016, it won't be the typical 1,500 hours you always hear about. Won't even be 1,713 hours. It will be 5,000 hours. 5,000 hours for early applications to the FDA. 5,000 hours. What that really means is if they calculate $599,000 for each product. That is, for each product. So, like we'll do the e-liquid. In this particular Lightning Vapes e-liquid, it's 0 mg, 3 mg, 6 mg. That's 3 applications right there. So that is what? 6. That's $1.6 million. Okay. But in order to complete all that testing, if they submit their e-liquid application in September of 2016, it will wind up being 5,000 hours of testing and lab reports and all this, which 1,500 hours is at. So, well, I don't even know if I can even do that. So you got 599 times 5,000. it will cost upwards of $30 million just to do this one e-liquid bottle. If you submit your application very early on, $30 million to do one e-liquid bottle. My advice is don't submit your applications till way later. But then if you do it way later, you still have, if everyone does that, then no one will have anything in the master file to compare it to, because everyone will be putting it off till later. Hopefully some survive and are approved, because it needs to be approved in order to go into the master file. Just because you submit it to the FDA does not mean it goes into the master file to be compared to. It has to be approved by the FDA, then it goes into the master file. This whole thing is such a sad joke on the vaping industry. It's incredible. Now, 1 second here. 29091. FDA's estimate includes anticipated burden for the writing of an application, including intra-company edits and approvals. FDA expects to receive annually will be 750, which includes 242 ENDS liquids and 108 ENDS delivery systems. Now, there are thousands of vaping products on the market. Thousands. Just in the RDA section. I mean, you go to the Fast Tech. Here, I'll go to the Fast Tech for you. Let's bring up Fast Tech. Let's do Fast Tech real quick. I mean, this is how far off that the FDA is. This is the reason why, without that Cole-Bishop Amendment, that marketplace will shrink down, almost down to this. From this to this. Like 75 to 90% will be literally wiped out of the marketplace by the year of May 10th of 2018 to May 10th of 2019. Now, here, on just the Fast Tech website, I'm not talking about all the other products, all the other RDAs that are out there, but just RDAs alone. Atomizers on Fast Tech, they have a total of 6,019 RDAs and tanks or atomizers, okay? So let's see if I can deal with, just do the RDAs. RDAs, they have 4,070 RDAs just on Fast Tech. And there are many tens of thousands of other RDAs out there. But according to the FDA, there will only be 108 delivery systems completed. Getting the picture how grave it is? This is really a grave picture. And then as far as e-liquids are concerned, let's see how many e-liquids, or I don't know if Google will bring it up. I'm sure it will. E-liquids worldwide. How many? I don't know if it'll bring it up. Well, let's just stick with Fast Tech, and I don't buy any of their e-liquids, but let's just stick with Fast Tech just for the heck of it. Fast Tech alone has 9,600 e-liquids. Okay? And and you might say, well, yeah, well, one's 10 mil, and one's 30 mil, one's 20 mil, one's 15 mil. Yeah, but each one of those is a separate new tobacco product or a separate application or an individual application. So it's actually is exactly what it says. 9,600 applications that not Fast Tech would have to do, but whoever manufactures that e-liquid. But according to the FDA, they only believe that on an annual basis, they will only receive 642 liquids or e-liquids. Can you see how grave it is, how they'll wipe out the entire market? And this is just Fast Tech. I'm not talking about America. There's got to be, I don't know, 20, 30,000. I can't bring it up on can't bring it up on Google. I finally stumped Google. Let me see if I could do e-liquids in the U.S. How many products? See if that'll bring it up. No, even Google is stumped on this one, and you know Google, they can bring up anything. It doesn't even. I can't even bring that up. So I'm going to say it's at least 20,000 different types of e-liquids throughout America, maybe even more. Okay, and what the FDA expects to receive annually is only 642 e-liquids. Because they figure that's about the amount that will actually even start the PMTA application process. Because most of these e-liquid manufacturers will say, well, no, I don't think I'm going to submit anything. Wait out my 2 years and get out of the marketplace. And that's exactly pretty much the train of thought. Unless e-liquid manufacturers, small e-liquid manufacturers consolidate. And even that will cost those small e-liquid manufacturers, because let's say you have 5 e-liquids in your line, you're going to have to drop that down to maybe just 1 e-liquid with maybe 3 mg and 6 mg, and that's it. It's really grave. It's very grave. That's why that Cole-Bishop Amendment must pass. Because all the e-liquid and hardware and software before August 8th, 2016 will remain on the market and will not be required to go through the PMTA and the substantial equivalence process. That's why it's essential to get that through Congress and signed into law by the President. People don't realize that. In fact, CASA doesn't even realize that. That's why I say they're really a crappy organization. Because apparently they're not reading to you what they should be reading to you. Instead of me doing all this work that's going to take me over 10-15 hours to do, why don't Julie Worsner do that? The executive director of CASA. Why don't she put it together? Why don't she read from the FDA final rule and explain what it's all about? But put that off to the side. Anyway, 29092. In this regards, no nicotine. Average 1 submission per year. Certification statement, 20 hours per product. So if you have e-liquid that has 0 mg, you have to submit a certification of it, and they only expect 1 submission per year on the average. And there's many 0 mg nicotine bottles out there. Actually, in fact, even this one has 0 mg, 3 mg, and 6 mg. Actually, most e-liquids come in 0 mg. And they only expect 1 submission per year. That's what the FDA expects. 29093. FDA's finite enforcement resources. Small-scale manufacturer report. FDA retains discretion in all cases to conduct an individualized inquiry and to consider any and all relevant facts in determining whether to bring an enforcement action. FDA considers a manufacturer to include each entity that it controls, is controlled by, or is under common control with such manufacturer. Now we'll take the first part. In other words, the FDA retains that discretion. Maybe they won't enforce this day, but the next day they may. Maybe one day they'll go after a small vape shop, the next day they'll go after a large manufacturer. Maybe they'll pick on someone in Maine, maybe they'll go to Florida, maybe they'll go to Washington, maybe they'll go to Iowa. It doesn't matter. It's up to their discretion how they're going to enforce it and who they're going to enforce as far as vape shop owners and as far as manufacturers, large e-liquid manufacturers or large hardware and software manufacturers. They will pick and choose accordingly as to how they will operate as far as enforcing their particular this particular FDA final rule. And then the other section is which goes to sort of not even sort of, it goes to this consolidation. FDA considers a manufacturer to include each entity that it controls, is controlled by, or is under common control with such manufacturer. Let's take, for instance, indoor smokers. Chris decides to take his Vapester juice, and he goes along with Rip Tripper's vape, what is his stuff, fog sauce, and Mike Vapes takes his e-liquid brand, I think it's Hit That Juice, and Grim Green takes his juice line called Epic Clouds, and whoever else is out there, they take their e-liquids and they combine them all together, and then they fall under this very large e-liquid manufacturer. Okay? That manufacturer must include each entity that it controls. So it controls all those Mike Vapes juice, Indoor Smokers juice, Grim Green's juice, is controlled by, that is, if it's controlled by another conglomerate or maybe another company, it could be controlled by another company, right? Or is under common control with such manufacturer. There's a common control, meaning maybe this e-liquid manufacturer and this e-liquid manufacturer come together in common control, and they run things equally or balanced. So they're still not off the hook. Mike Vapes, Indoor Smokers, Grim Green, Rip Trippers, they are still not off the hook, because they still have to pay fees to this one large e-liquid manufacturer to process their juices. And for the e-juice manufacturer that consolidates all these e-juice lines, they still have to submit to the FDA, which will still cost them millions of dollars. So I don't know how, I think like fog sauce, I don't know how many there are. I think there are like 10 or 15 of them or something like that. He's going to have to knock that down to about maybe 1 or 2. Yeah. By the time of May 10th, 2018, Rip Trippers, if he still remains in business, if he can't consolidate under one large e-liquid manufacturer, he'll either go out of business or only have 1 or 2 juices in his line. 29094. The total burden for these new collections of information in this rulemaking is 1,621,212 reporting hours and 12,342 record keeping hours for a total of 1,633,554 burden hours. And what that means is the FDA is going to hire a lot of people, a lot of new employees. Actually, I spoke about this, I think, in another section, in another subpart on this part 9 here, that the FDA is actually going to build a new FDA center, which will be focused entirely on this FDA final rule. And they're going to hire a crap load of employees. Taxpayer paid by, we pay for all that, by the way, But anyway, in order for them to process all the applications that they will receive during the next 2 years, from August 8th, 2016 up until May 10th of 2018, because they have to get all your submissions in by May 10th of 2018, it will be for a total of 1,633,000 hours, 554 burden hours. 1 million, so it's 1,633,554. 1,633,554 hours. Now, if those workers get paid, some of them probably be scientists or whatever have you, educated employees, they might, work $70,000 a year or whatever it may be, that is going to be a serious amount of money. So when they say in the Tobacco Control Act, 2009, that the benefits must outweigh the costs, the FDA completely violated the Tobacco Control Act of 2009 because over almost 2 million hours of work time will be spent on this FDA final rule application process. And you add that up, 40 hours. I couldn't even do the calculation. It'd take me half an hour to do that. Maybe I'll do that in a separate video. But normally it's a 40 hours per week work shift, right? When you add that up, how many people they will have to, and I'm sure they've calculated this quite well. They're calculating as I speak, how they have to have a certain amount of workers in order to fulfill those estimated hours of 1,633,554 hours. I'm sure they figured out how many employees we're going to have to hire, how much we will pay them, who we need to pay as far as education level is concerned, because I'm sure some of them will be actual, chemists and biologists and things of that nature, as well as lab tests and institutions and organizations and research labs that they also contract with, like I spoke about in Part 2, the FDA contracts. And all together, it will be 1,600,000, always do that wrong, 1,633,554 burden hours. That's a lot of time they're going to spend on these applications that go through the FDA on August 8th, 2016 and thereafter for the next 2 years. I'm almost done. Look, almost done. I'm going to knock this out, dang it. It's 12 a.m. on Saturday. I thought I'd put it off till Sunday, but I'm going to just knock this out. 29094. Before the effective date of this final rule, FDA will publish a notice in the Federal Register announcing the Office of Management and Budget's decision to approve, modify, or disapprove the information collection provisions in this final rule. An agency may not conduct or sponsor, and a person is not required to respond to, a collection of information unless it displays a currently valid OMB control number. Now let me just look that up because I want to put that in the context of what it's saying. Hold on 1 second. Take a vape for a second as well. As I find this. Just want to put it in the context of what it's saying. 1 second here. Okay. The information collection provisions in this final rule have been submitted to OMB for review as required by Section 3507D of the Paperwork Reduction Act of 1995. Excuse me, that alone is completely wrong. I mean, the paperwork itself would be so complex and hundreds of thousands of pages going through the FDA. That is definitely not in accordance with the Reduction Act. I can tell you that right now. And then it goes on to state, and I just want to know what the caption of that is, what it's, the heading, what's that falling under, so I understand it. 1 second here, submitting. There's a subheading as to what that they're talking to on that. So it's actually small scale manufacturer report is what they're talking about there. So before the effective date of this final rule, FDA will publish a notice in the Federal Register. So before August 8th, 2016, they will be publishing a notice in the Federal Register announcing the Office of Management and Budget's decision to approve, modify, or disapprove the information collection provisions in this final rule. So, the OMB, or the Office of Management and Budget, still can decide to approve or modify or disapprove the information collection provisions in this final rule. So they can actually, the information collection provisions, let me understand what the heck that means. That's a new term for me. One second, let me understand what that term means. FDA information collection provisions. All right. All right. One second here, I'll pull this up in PDF form. Just understand what the contents of what they're talking about. I mean, the context of what they're talking about here. One second. Should have had this pulled up already. I'm sorry about this. All right. So what that means is the OMB will review, and it's not the whole entire FDA final rule, by the way. That's what I thought it was going to be, because I was thinking to myself, oh, that's pretty cool. Maybe the OMB can actually find the entire FDA final rule null and void before August 8th, 2016, but that's not what it's doing. It's regarding the information collection provisions, and that is, on that particular, in the FDA final rule, the information that is being collected by the FDA, and that is, could be ingredient listings or the PMTA process of collecting that information, or the substantial equivalence process collecting that type of information. The OMB can decide to approve of that or modify it or disapprove of it. But the irony of it all is, and the very sad irony, is it was the OMB's decision, along with the Office of Internal Regulatory Affairs, to actually come up with the FDA final rule. They're the ones that actually put it together. They wrote it. In other words, the FDA, the Commissioner Mitch Zeller, and the Health and Human Services Secretary, Ms. Matthews, I'm sure they did it several times a week, or however they did it, according to whatever schedule they had. But they would meet with the Office of Management and Budget and with the Office of Internal Regulatory Affairs. They'd sit around a big table and hash it out. And they'll have a stenographer there typing everything out. What should the FDA final rule, how it will read, and that's how you got your FDA final rule in written form, how it was compiled together. So I'm sure the OMB is not going to disapprove of the information collection provisions in the FDA final rule in regards to the PMTA or the registration or substantial equivalence process. They're not going to disapprove of it. And in fact, probably no one even read this. I heard no one even speak about this. And because it says before the effective date of this final rule. So the OMB can still disapprove of the collection provisions within the FDA final rule up until August 8th, 2016. But they're not going to do it. So that's another, pipe dream. But they can if they wanted to, but they won't. And then 29094, FDA complied with Executive Order 13132, and I spoke about that in Part 5, the FDA executive orders, and I'll bring that up real quick for you right now. And it's this one here. Okay, and it is about federalism, and it was in August 4th, 1999, and I spoke about that in Part 5, FDA executive orders, and accordingly, they complied with that. And what that basically means is that they have to. Federalism is what that states. Okay, so let me just read a little bit. Federalism. By the authority vested in me as President by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America in order to guarantee the division of governmental responsibilities between the national government and the states that was intended by the framers of the Constitution to ensure that the principles of federalism established by framers guide the executive departments and agencies and the formulation and implementation of policies and to further the policies of Unfunded Mandates Reform Act. It is hereby ordered as policies that have federalism implications, refers to regulations, legislative comments or proposed legislation, and other policy statements or actions that have substantial direct effects on the states, on the relationship between the national government and the states, or on the distribution of power and responsibility among the various levels of government. And it goes on, but I also, like I said, it is in Part 5, FDA executive orders. So apparently FDA complied with that, so they don't step on anyone's toes as far as state governments are concerned. The state government under the U.S. Amendments 9th, 10th, and 11th have their own inherent rights as well that the federal government cannot step over or cannot violate unless a court of law, like a U.S. Supreme Court, rules otherwise. And that's only what that's about. According to the FDA, they're in compliance, which there probably are. And these states, like California especially, or Indiana especially, will wind up trying to catch up to, and not catch up, but even make their laws on the books even worse than what the FDA did. Because what happens is the states have to comply with the FDA final rule, but the states can go even more extreme than the FDA final rule if they so choose to through their own state legislatures. Like, for instance, California is a perfect example. Federal government can only regulate the age at 18 and under. So anyone 18 years of age and under cannot buy a vaping product after August 8th, 2016. Well, in California, they just passed a law that makes it 21 years of age. And that's perfectly legal and also constitutionally illegal, by the way. You might challenge that, but it'd probably be, well, you probably can, maybe, I don't know, but I don't think so, because that's according to that particular state. It doesn't affect other states within the union. It just affects California, and that's based upon its own state legislatures, how the councils work underneath the state legislature, and how it all works together as far as the legislative process. And apparently, the majority of the population in California wanted the age moved up to 21 years of age. And the federal government can't say, no, you can't do that, California. And if you, like I live in Oklahoma can't say to California, you can't do that. That's up to the state of California. So anyway, as I wrote down, I put down stop. And that's the end of this entire this project, and then I'm going to come back with my epilogue and sum everything up for you. See you in a bit. Bye.